That time, it felt like a death sentence. Everybody was like, why are you doing that? And how are you going to get treatment if you get sick? My husband was completely against it. He was like, no, we're not doing this. And I'm like, I need to do this. I want to do this. I have to do this.
You're like, if the lights are off, how can I even see where?
Yeah. Like, okay, I'm gonna miss. It's gonna come out somewhere, guys. Like,
what kind of test is this?
Yeah.
Welcome to Rarely Discussed, an American Porphyria Foundation podcast with your hosts, Andrew McManamon
and Nicole Castellano.
We both have porphyria, which is a rare disease. As scientifically different as rare diseases can be, we share many similarities on how it affects our lives.
We're here to open the discussion and give the porphyria and rare disease community a safe place to connect, learn, and heal. Being rare can feel lonely and isolating, but we're stronger together. Let's take a journey as we share our personal stories and have meaningful interviews with porphyria and rare disease experts and the patients and families impacted.
We'll talk diagnosis, treatment, misdiagnosis, managing daily life tips, ways to cope physically, mentally, and emotionally, and everything rare. Welcome to Rarely Discussed. On this week's episode, we have a special guest, and I figured, Nicole, you could take it over and introduce them.
Great. Thank you, Andrew. So today we have Tasha Alicea from Arizona, and Tasha is a member of the American Porphyria Foundation Member Advisory Board, and she does a lot to volunteer. She's got the biggest heart. She is just an absolute light on our Facebook support group. She's always very welcoming and very friendly with everybody. And so she's very popular, and she does a lot to spread awareness for porphyria besides helping us. She was featured in a video for porphyria awareness for Global Porphyria Day on May 18th that was featuring all different types of porphyria, and it was an international video that was made by GPAC, which is the Global Porphyria Advocacy Coalition. So it was a very big deal. So she was wonderful, and it featured her and her son Cal. So Tasha, thank you so much for being here today. We just want to kind of hear about your story. I know you have Hereditary Coproporphyria, which is a type of AHP or acute hepatic porphyria, which is different. So we've only so far been talking about AIP. So it'll be interesting. This type of porphyria has cutaneous symptoms as well as acute symptoms. And so we just want to hear your story, your life, and just everything about you.
Well, thank you, Nicole. I'm glad to be here. Glad to talk with you guys. That I don't know really where to begin, but HCP is somewhat new to me. I was diagnosed officially in 2020. In 2019, we kind of got the ball rolling, but I didn't get the official diagnosis until 2020. So I'm still learning. There's lots to learn. You never know what you're going to get. Day to day is kind of different. I live in Arizona, so we're definitely in summer where it's hot, and just gets hotter from here on out. So we just kind of have a little bit of a different lifestyle, because the sun and the heat are so bad here. My son and I, we kind of have become recluses, I guess, so to speak, during the summer months. Even during the winter months too, we try to limit like the time that we're in the sun because it is a trigger for us. But the summer is the hardest. That's when we are sick the most. We have more hospitalizations or more treatments during this time of year. That's kind of how it started. We moved from Southern California. And when I was 29, I kind of was having like mild symptoms, but nobody could ever figure out what was going on. I had some hospitalizations, would have high blood pressure episodes, and they just couldn't figure it out. When we moved here in 2016, it was right in the middle of summer. It was in August 2016, and we were told that the heat is a doozy, and that we probably would need some time to acclimate especially coming from Southern California, you know, it's like 75 all year round.
Yeah.
And then you come here and it's like 120. And when we first moved here, it was 122 degrees. And they're like, oh, this is rare. We're having a heat wave. I think that is just something they sold us on just to get us to come because it's always in the hundreds, like 100 plus. And so we just started getting like really sick. Anytime we were outside, because coming from Southern California, we didn't have a pool or anything. And coming here, it's like everybody has a pool. So everybody wants to come over, come swimming, or let's go here, let's go there. And so we had discovered the river and the lake, and that was, you know, new and exciting. And we always would just get really sick afterwards. And people would just tell us, oh, it's probably sun poisoning, it's probably heat stroke,
Right.
which it mimics those symptoms. So, you know, that's what we thought it was.
Right.
And,
it makes sense. It totally makes sense.
Right. And so then it was just progressing a lot more, and it had been a couple of years. And so then we're just kind of piecing it together like, okay, well, this is not normal.
Right.
Like, we've been here already so many years. We haven't acclimated, you know, kind of what's going on. It was a day after we had been to the lake, and I couldn't move. Like, my arms and my legs were in so much pain. It was kind of like I was like paralyzed. Like I just was laying in this pain. Like, I couldn't move. It just hurt so bad to even move. And my husband's like, that's not normal. You need to get in to see your doctor.
Now, when you're saying it hurt so bad you couldn't move, was it your skin and stuff with your body, or was it mostly the cutaneous that kind of showed up first because of the sun, do you think?
So it was kind of everything. Like, I had like that really bad abdominal pain, the nausea, the vomiting, in my arms and legs. It was like that deep, deep aching pain. I don't know if have you ever been to the gym and like you like overworked your muscles and they're like burning and like you can't even move, like it hurts. Like, say you did like 1,000,000 squats and you're like, oh, I can't walk.
Yeah.
It felt like that, but like magnified.
Right. Okay.
And I like really couldn't like move or get up or walk. Like, my husband had to like take me to the bathroom. And so I had gone into the doctor. And this was in 2020. And like I said before, we kind of got the ball rolling in 2019.
Okay.
But I wasn't ready to hear anything at that time. So I'd gotten a new doctor, and she was phenomenal, very thorough. And she kind of had her suspicions because, like I said, she was thorough. She had read all of my like history of everything, my medical history. And so she didn't tell me, but she kind of had an idea of what she thought, you know, was going on. Mm-hmm. And she'd asked me to do a test, and I refused to take a test because I was like, I've done hundreds of tests. Like, nobody can figure it out. It's a waste of money. I just want to get my blood pressure medication refill. Like, just give me that and I'm going to be on my way. And I just deal with everything. And, but this time, it was just too much that I couldn't deal with it. Had gone in. And so she was asking questions. And I had said, can you test me for lupus? And so then that was even more of a red flag for her. She was just like, I really think I know what's going on here. And so she had done, you know, she had tested for lupus, rheumatoid arthritis, MS, and porphyria. All of that came back negative except for porphyria. It was positive for porphyria. And so then when, you know, she had me come in for the appointment to go over the results, she told me about it, and then said she was referring me to a hematologist. He did all the same tests, but then he added the genetic test, and we got that back.
What type of test did they do to was it a urine test that they did that she did
Yeah.
that came up positive?
So I did the urine test. That was in her office. And I thought it was the weirdest thing because she's like, I want you to turn off the lights when you go into the bathroom. She walked me over to the gal that was gonna, take my blood and all that, and asked her for an amber colored cup. And I thought that was weird because I'd never done a urine test like that. And
what is
so
going on here?
Yeah.
What?
You're like, if the lights are off, how can I even see what I'm
Like, okay, I'm gonna miss. It's gonna come out somewhere, guys. Like,
What kind of test is this?
yeah.
like, clean catch is hard enough. If I have to do this in the dark, I don't know,
Right. Oh gosh. So I thought it was really weird, but I was like, okay, I'm gonna do this. And so we did, and then so it was the urine test, and then I had done the blood test, and then later she had me do a fecal test, and then I did all those same tests with the hematologist she referred me to, but he added the genetic test. And the genetic test was easy. It was just spit in a tube and send it off. And at that time I was like, how is this even going to say anything? Like, did I spit right?
Yeah.
Like, okay. Like, normally when you see, like, they like swab or somebody does it, and I'm like, you're having me do this at home? Like, okay.
Spit in a tube and pee in the dark.
For this disease is very strange.
Mhm.
It is.
First
It
I could
is.
pee in the dark, and now I'm spitting into a tube. I'm like,
Yeah, I'm like, okay. But anyway, those were the ones that I had done, and we got the results. And so when the geneticist had called me and was telling me that it was the CPOX gene, and then it's HCP, Hereditary Coproporphyria, I didn't really know too much about it either. I mean, just the tiny bit that my other doctor, my primary care doctor, kind of filled me in on. And then the geneticist, kind of explaining. But in those moments, like, everything just kind of was going over my head. I just kind of was like maybe numb or in shock, or just, trying to wrap my head around this. And then, oh, it's very rare. And it's like, okay, like, well, so how do we fix it? And they're like, there's no cure. Okay, so this is what I have to deal with. Like, I have to feel like this. Like, that kind of sucks. This is not fun.
right.
And they're explaining there's some treatments that we can do, and for your type, and but again, none of that really meant a whole lot to me. It just kind of was like, I felt like it was a death sentence, basically, because there's no cure. So I didn't feel like that there was hope. I felt kind of lost, and just like, it just went into my shell, kind of went into depression, and was just upset. We're a very religious family, and I wasn't upset at God. I was just upset that it was another trial I had to go through, just something else on my plate, that it was just like, you hear the saying, like, he doesn't give you more than you think you can handle, or more than he thinks you can handle.
Yeah.
And I really was like, this is way too much. Like, I can't handle this. And at that time, when I was on the phone getting the results from the geneticist, my son, Cal, was hospitalized because he was having an episode. And at that time, again, we didn't really know what was going on.
Did you have any suspicions, since some of the symptoms were the same as yours, and then you were just diagnosed, or were you just still in that overwhelm where you didn't put two and two together yet?
So as a mom, mostly I put myself on the back burner. And my kids come first, my family comes first. So I always was taking care of Cal before me. So any like little thing other than, the obvious, like a cold or, stomach flu or something like that, This wasn't going away. He was having these symptoms. I had taken him to his pediatrician lots of times, actually, before I would even go to the doctor. Okay. And they were telling me, because he's on the spectrum, that it's his autism, his anxiety is due to autism. And, a lot of times kids who are on the spectrum, they'll have these, they called them abdominal migraines, where they'll get sick and they have this abdominal pain. But it was just fine. Like, don't worry about it.
Okay.
And so that's what we just kind of took it as.
Sure.
And so we call it the Kal-El flu, because he would have these episodes, and it'd only be him that would be like vomiting and like super, super sick. And he couldn't really he could tell us like he has like the pain and stuff, but he was younger. So he didn't really know how to like put it into words, and
Sure.
like just, describing it is just awful pain. And I mean, he would be on the floor in a ball, writhing in pain, and just uncontrollable vomit. And I didn't have a lot of that vomiting. Like, more mine was nausea. Like, I would have some vomiting, but I never had as much vomiting as he did. And he would never have a fever either. So I was just like, well, this is weird. But the doctors would say, oh, sometimes flus don't get, or the stomach flu or stomach bug, you don't get fevers. So according to them, everything was fine. And until...
I'm sorry to interrupt you for 1 second. It's just so interesting how it, again, porphyria can look like so many other things. That's one of the reasons it's so hard. This must have been so hard, once, seeing him going through all this and not being able to do anything about it. I can't even imagine.
Right.
Yeah, and sorry to cut you off, Tasha. I was just curious, just in a sense, because I know there was just a lot leading up to the diagnosis too, and you trying to get answers, but then there was a stubbornness a little bit to it. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Is there, on the other end of things, would you say that there was a contentment, or you feeling at ease, like a sigh of relief, knowing that there's answers now, despite how rare and horrible it is?
That didn't come until later. It did take me a little while, because, like I said, Cal was in the hospital at that time. Okay. So I had a lot going on, and just trying to like figure out how we're going to navigate this. So it was just kind of like I had blinders on. I just was so or tunnel vision, I guess. Mm-hmm. I was so focused on, we need to figure out what's going on with Cal, but also me thinking like, a lot of this is very similar. Like, we kind of would have like flare-ups and get sick around the same time, which now we know it's summertime. It's the heat and the sun. And well, if I'm out at the pool swimming, or if I'm out at the lake, he's out at the lake too. Sure. And so we were kind of doing the same things, which, triggered it. And so that didn't come until later. And honestly, I still do struggle with it. Like, I think I've mentioned to Nicole before, it's like a grieving process. There's no timeline. It just kind of like comes in waves. It happens when it happens. So there's some days where I'm like, okay, I'm totally fine. Like, we got this. There's treatment. I'm doing good. One foot in front of the other. I've reached out online to all the support groups. I've read a lot of different people's experiences. I've seen different doctors speak. I've, read different things. And so there's some days where I'm doing good, and I'm like, this is okay. Like, we're going to get through this totally fine. But then there are some days, and most of the time, it's when I'm in an attack or a flare that I kind of go down that rabbit hole, and it's like, this really is hard. I can't do this. It's like, it's a mental game. And you really have to be mentally strong, because it can consume you. Especially I don't know if you guys experienced it, but a lot of times when I'm in the hospital, that's the hardest for me because I'm away from everybody. I'm away from home and I can't do anything. So all I can do is just sit and be in pain and uncomfortable. And it's harder in the hospital too when you're having an attack because, you're trying to sleep. They're coming in every so often, checking your vitals and talking to you.
Not your bed. You don't have your
Right.
dogs and your family with you.
Right. So it's a little
dogs first.
It's a little easier to kind of get into your head when you're at home and you're around your things because you can start looking around and seeing the positives and then you can shift your focus. But in the hospital, that's where it really gets me because I don't have a lot to shift my focus to. And I'm just sitting there. Right. Of course I'm in pain and, or I'm doing treatment or whatever. And I know that there's light at the end of the tunnel because they're like, okay, you're going to get your 4 doses and you should be better. And then you get to go home. Mm-hmm. But those 4 days, usually it's like 5 days. Because by the time they get the medication and you get it, and then they have that day extra that they wait before they release you. So 5 or 6 days. And it's like time is so slow and you just like, even just getting by, 30 minutes at time. So I would kind of focus like, okay, 30 minutes, I got this, I can do this. I'll try to read something depending on how I'm feeling, or I'll try to just close my eyes. Cause usually my husband, he'll come visit, or I might have a friend or two that will come visit, but they're not there all through the whole process, through the whole time. My husband's at home handling the kids or whatever. And my friends have their families and stuff. So, I try to just, get through little increments of time, but it feels like forever. It feels like eternity.
It's like a roller coaster. I mean, there's, and going back to what you said a little bit, you have these days where it's like a double-edged sword where you're like, oh, I know what I have. I feel fine with that. All I have to do is avoid the triggers. Everything's fine. Mm-hmm. And then you're in the hospital and it's like, at least for me growing up, I only went to the hospital a couple times, like in a hospital bed to see like my grandma passing away. So that first time I was in the hospital bed, I was like, this is where people come to die. So, and it's just, it's when you have those attacks at home, you can kind of look around, like you said, and be grateful for this, and this. But when you're laying there and that time's going slow, it's like, for me, I'm laying there and I hear that clock ticking and it's just tick, because that's the only noise in the room.
You're so right. You guys are totally putting me back in like I'm literally feeling like, Tasha, when I remember this one period of time very well, and there was this courtyard outside my room. It was inside, but it was called this atrium, and there was this horse statue, and I was trying to read, and I hadn't slept in days, and and you're not. That's the worst too, because I don't know about you guys, but if you're getting the insomnia part of it when you're in the hospital, it's even more painful because you cannot escape. You're just like up all the time, and so I would try to read, and something would happen with my vision where I'd be reading and the page would split in two and then go like this. And so I'd have to close my eyes and wait and try to read it really fast, and then it would split. And
reset it.
Yeah,
exactly. And it, for some reason, you talking right now is just totally, I feel like I can see it. It's just so weird.
And it's like the days too. I mean, when you're there for 3, 5, 7 days, like typically when my attacks were happening, I was there for 7 days. And the first couple days you're like, okay, get me better. And like, you just kind of fall back and you're like, just take care of me, do what we need to do. But you get a couple days in and you're like, just get me home. I just want to go home. Yeah. And it's just, that's when the time goes really slow. And that's when you can't sleep. And then the nurses are coming in perfectly at that time when you're falling asleep.
Exactly.
They time it. I mean, they got a reminder. They're like,
I know they have just a sixth sense, don't they?
Oh, they're asleep now. Gotta go in. Wake them up.
They're doing their job, so you can't get upset because they're taking good care of you. But you're just like, oh, I just almost had it.
You're like, the vitals can wait. Oh my god.
Yeah. It hasn't changed, guys. It's the same.
Yeah. Can't we just deal with the heart monitor for an hour so I can sleep? Like, just give me, like, I'll come in every 15 minutes.
Yeah.
So now that it's just a little bit more established and you've experienced it a little bit more, I mean, what does the routine look like? What does the avoidance of trigger look like for your family now?
So we can't get rid of it fully, obviously. Even if you eliminate, or you do the best you can to eliminate triggers, you're still going to have episodes. We still have days, you know, and as a mom too, I can't get rid of stress. It's just inevitable. But as best as I can, we've kind of developed a routine. So summertime, we slow down a bit, and we're not, doing as much during summertime. So we can, if we need to go out, then it's like in the evening time when the sun is going down. And I don't know if you're familiar with Arizona, but even when it's dark outside, it can be 7-8 o'clock at night and it still can be 115 degrees. It's still hot. Like it just does not cool down at night at all. But we don't have the sun, blaring on us. So then we'll go, to the store, whatever it is that we need to do, just to get out of the house. So, I mean, we have, a good sized house, but I still feel like a trapped bird. And so a change of scenery sometimes. And most places here in Arizona will have ACs. Your car has AC. So we just kind of shift when okay, we're going to the store to get a couple of things. That's our outing for the day. And, or we might go to the movies, or we might go do something. We did get brave enough, or I should say I got brave enough. It took Cal a little while before he felt comfortable doing it. But I started doing like sunset floats just because going back to when I thought it was a death sentence, that, okay, now I can't do anything. Now I'm just stuck inside all day long. I don't get to have any fun. I don't get to go out. But we learned. It took a little bit to kind of figure out the time. And then my body, kind of feeling like where I'm at and how I'm doing. I also have to plan it around my menstrual cycle, because that's a huge trigger too. So, we can do sunset floats. So when the sun's starting to go down, we'll go to the river. And the water is like 65 degrees at the river. So it's cold, which is nice and refreshing. And the sun is going down, so we just float down the river. There's these wild horses. It's beautiful. And so that's like my little sanctuary. I try, when I'm feeling good, I'll try to like host like craft nights or movie nights or whatever at my house, and have my friends come over. Same thing for Cal. Have his friends come over, do games, or, just to kind of keep his mind a little busy. Because during the summertime it is hard. You see everybody is out, going to the lake or the river. They're out swimming in their swimming pool, or his friends, are outside doing stuff. It's easy to start feeling bad for yourself. So just trying to find those things. Cal now has his driver's license, so this is a huge game changer for him. Yeah. He doesn't have to rely on us. If he just wants to go drive around the block, he's just like, hey, I'm just going to go for a drive around the block. He has a convertible, so he likes to put the top down, and it's night and it's dark, and so he can, because during the day he can't do that. So that brings him happiness. We try to escape to California. Southern California from where we live here in Arizona is about a 5-hour drive. So we'll try to just go there because it's much cooler. And we'll get a hotel on the beach, so we can see the beach. And then when, the sun starts going down, then we kind of go out and, walk around and stuff. But yeah, it's a learning curve. I mean, I still overdo it at times. Cal still overdoes it. Sometimes he's just really excited and wants to do stuff with his friends. And then he comes home and he's just like, I did too much, or I was outside too long. And then he's not feeling well. It happens, but,
Tasha, we were talking maybe more than a couple weeks ago. And, you were saying that your friends come over, they sound really supportive and everything. And I know that you want to be supportive. Remember, you were trying to help your friend find the dog, and it was in the middle of the day. You knew you're like, I know I'm going to get sick, but you went and you did it anyway. And like, that's gotta be a very hard balance, knowing you've got all, to take care of everyone at home and your own health and everything, but still wanting to be there. And Andrew, it was ridiculous. She's like, I'm going. And she just went up, and then, and you did have a reaction afterwards. So
I did. Yeah.
Is it worth it when you do that? Because you feel normal for that time, or because that's how I do that too. I overdo, and Andrew, we all do it. And it's, you kind of go, it was worth it because I wanted to be there for someone, or I wanted to feel normal or whatever. So was it worth it?
Oh, 100%. It was worth it. I'll do it all over again. I still do it to myself. It's hard. It is so hard to just be inside. Okay. It's hot from May all the way to the end of November, and staying cooped up that long in the house, not going out, not doing anything. I mean, any time of the year to not get out and do anything. Oh, I can't do that. To me, it's worth it to have that little bit of time to feel like I'm normal and I can do this. And then there's days where you're feeling good. Like, right. I'm sure you guys know we still have like little things here and there. Like, there's always some sort of pain that we're in, but I think you guys are like me, and you're used to it. You can function at a certain pain level, and that's your good. And so when I say I'm feeling good, I'm not saying like I'm 100% pain free or I don't have anything going on. It's just I can function, I can do stuff. But when you're in that moment and you're like, oh my goodness, this is so nice, like I'm having a great time, you don't want to stop. Like, that, okay, I probably should stop. It's probably time to go rest. But you're just like, I don't want to stop. And you just keep going. And then when you hit that point, you're like, crap, that's not good. Like, but I'm just like,
don't you think it's kind of part of that grieving process too? Because like you said, you can distract yourself when you're at home with the pain and everything. But when you do just make that decision to be like, I know I should stop, but I'm going to keep going because I feel normal, and just feels so good to feel normal for like a couple hours. Yeah. Then when you do have to suffer the consequences, it reminds you, I have to deal with this, and
right.
So I'm just wondering if that's kind of part of, if you feel like that too.
Yeah, no, I do. And like I said, I still continue to do it just because to me, it's worth it. Like, to have that I did something. I've been trying to do, little trips here and there, because when I first got my diagnosis, it's like, we're not going anywhere. We're not doing anything. And it's taken me a while. So probably last year, we started, exploring a couple of, things that I thought that we would never be able to do again. We went to Hawaii. And everybody was like, why are you doing that? And how are you going to get treatment if you get sick? My husband was completely against it. He was like, no, we're not doing this. And I'm like, I need to do this. I want to do this. I have to do this. I want to go here. And he was stressed out the whole time. In fact, actually, Cal ended up having a flare-up. And I did get super worried. I was like, oh, crap, what did I do? But he didn't get a lot of sleep. He's on the spectrum, so there's a lot of other things that come into play. He doesn't travel too well. It was a new environment. We had to prep him and explain to him what's going on, what we're doing. But he couldn't sleep, and I actually forgot his sleep medicine. And by the time we got there, everything was closed, so we couldn't get him Benadryl. Because I was like, the only thing I could give him right now would be Benadryl to help him, just to knock him out. Like, he's got to go to sleep, right, and then he'll feel better. But we couldn't. And so we were waiting for our room to be ready. And he was just hunched over on one of the tables under an umbrella. It wasn't super hot. We had went in May. But we were in the shade, and my husband was just like, "Are you happy with yourself?" But I was like, "It will be okay. It'll be okay." We got, situated in the room. He ended up, going to sleep. The next day he woke up. He was totally fine. And, we learned, okay, well, Brad or my husband and my daughter can go hang out on the beach. Cal and I could hang out under the shade or do different things at the resort. We figured it out.
There's such a nice sorry to interrupt you, but there's such a nice takeaway from that too, because I know we talk a lot about the grieving process and not comparing yourself to others, but at least when I was diagnosed, and it sounds like that's how everybody is when they get diagnosed. They're like, okay, I can't do this, I can't do this, I can't do this. But instead of shifting, it takes so long for people to shift to, but I can do this, but I can do that. And I think you just displayed that so well, just being able to shift. Like, you have the crafts, you have the river, you have those trips, you have all these different things that you're doing. And there's a lot of people out there that are just kind of sitting like, okay, this is, like you said, a death sentence, and I'm just sitting here waiting, instead of being able to think, okay, I can't do this, but I can go this route and do this and make the most of this. Having a convertible and flying around at night. I mean, it's just making the most of what you got. So I think that's a really good thing to tell people. So
yeah, we've learned to pivot, and we've learned different skills. And with those skills, we've learned how to, thrive and survive. And you have to. Maybe not everybody's the same, but for us, we have to. And that's what I tell Cal all the time is we have to find the positive. We have to keep going. We have to figure this out. We can, and we will, and we do. There's things that you just, it's like, okay, well, one door closes. Well, there's another way in. We can figure this out. There will be another door that will open. And just learning, give and take, and just
it's like
kind
a
of
trial and error kind of thing.
Yeah,
almost.
Trial and error, exactly. And just not being afraid, because in the beginning I was afraid, and Cal was afraid, but it took me having to shift my mindset. It took him having to watch me and to see, and me reassure him, like, it's okay, we can do this, and so now he knows, and he loves Hawaii. He wants to go back to Hawaii. There's still some things he doesn't want to do, because he's still afraid. But that's okay on his own time. I did do a trip earlier this year in January. I had gone to Disneyland with some girlfriends that had never been there. And I was just like, I don't want to miss out. Like, I really want to go and I want to do this. And I know that everybody was super worried. Like, that's a long day. That it's a lot of sun. But I know the park so well because when we lived in Southern California, we always had passes. The areas where I can go, I can rest, be shaded. And we had it all worked out. Well, I ended up having an attack, and it actually kind of was a pretty scary one. But my friends were super great. There's a medical center there. Our hotel was right there. And so I had gone to the medical center and just, started my protocol, carb loading, sugar, electrolytes. And when it got to a point that it was just like, this is a little bit more than I can handle. And then the nurse there was just she'd never heard of porphyria, and she was very worried, especially the condition I was in and how I was, the symptoms and how I was acting. She was just she wanted to get an ambulance there and get me to the hospital, but I had told her, no, like, if you get me back to my room, I have all the rest of my stuff, then I can just, start, doing what I need to do. And my friend was like, okay, well, let's get you back there. And so she had told the nurse, okay, can you just get us to the hotel? We got a taxi. They wheeled me out and got a taxi. We went to the hotel. And my friend was just like, okay, I'm trusting you to be honest with me and to tell me when you need to go to the hospital. And so I was like, okay. And then she was quick. She never left my side. I was laying on the bed. She was right on the floor next to my bed. And she was helping me.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. She's amazing.
Because a lot of friends would be like, well, now we missed out on the rest of our trip.
Right.
You know what I mean? So that's you got
Yes.
one there.
Oh, I know.
And I was going to ask you too, I mean, is that one of the situations, I know you said earlier about trying to find the pet in the middle of the day, that being worth it? Is this one of those situations where you said it's still worth it?
Yeah, to me it was worth it because I got to experience that with my friends that had never been to Disneyland. And that was my very first girls trip. I had never, I'm 41, almost 42. I'd never been on a solo girls trip. My husband travels a lot, so it's always been me raising the kids. And then with Cal being on the spectrum and then also him now having, porphyria as well, I never wanted to leave because I'm the only one who knows how to handle everything.
Right.
But, we got to a point where it was like, okay, I need to not be afraid. He's big enough, and I just have to go. And so I did, and it was worth it. It was great. I only missed 4 hours. I was able to recover and feel well enough that I was back at the park. We were riding Space Mountain and,
wow,
finishing off the park strong. So it was just kind of to me, that was worth it. And just having that, I guess, little reprieve going to the hotel. But if this would have happened maybe a year or two prior, then I probably would have said, no, it wasn't worth it. But I think now that I've got 4 years under my belt of, trying to navigate porphyria, that now I'm that's worth it. That probably sounds so crazy, but
no,
that's how I feel.
It's so true, though. I mean, there's so many people out there that, and I've talked to so many people in the support groups about just saying they're scared and they don't want to do anything and they're just kind of waiting around. But then I talked to some of the veterans in the porphyria world, and they're like, I just do stuff and then I just know I'll figure it out. It's just if you're on vacation. And it was the same thing for me when I first was diagnosed. And because I was diagnosed up north at my parents' property. So then the next year I was like, I don't want to go to that property again. So traveling and or my first time taking a plane after that, I was like, you know what? I'm going to Florida. I don't know if this is going to be good, if it's going to be bad, but I'm going to figure it out. And I think that's, I mean, at some point there's going to be that mentality shift based on, of course, on everybody's situation, because everyone's different, of course.
But, I think that's really important. And what I was thinking, Tasha, when you were talking too, it's a risk every time you go outside. And I get told that all the time too. Are you crazy? There's certain medications that I'm on because of porphyria that I have an adrenal insufficiency and I have to be on prednisone. And it's really bad for you to be on it for a long time. And so I've tried to get off of it a couple times. When I do, when I'm not controlled, it's really bad. I'm climbing up a wall. I just want to do anything to escape this feeling. It's horrible, but I keep trying to go. I've gotten off of it 3 times, and everyone's like, you remember what happened last time, right? And the time before that. And I'm like, I know, but I was able to go 3 months and then 6 months and then 8 months without the medication. And at least it's giving my bones kind of a rest, because it's supposed to flatten your bones and things like that. But, I didn't mean to go into all that detail, but basically, it's a risk. And if anyone's watching this podcast and they can either see you or hear you, I think, you have such a light of positivity. It's just like beaming out of you. It's who you are. And, you know, like we said, in the groups and everything, for everybody else, for your son, for yourself. And I think that, what would you tell somebody now that you've kind of gotten a handle on it, and you're you know, how do you reach in when it's dark? How do you reach in for that light? I think for you, it might be more natural just because you have that. But what would you tell people when whether they're not there yet where they can take those risks, or whether they just have been too afraid? Like how would you tell them to reach in and to try to feel okay with not being okay, I guess?
I mean, first, what I always say is you have to give yourself grace, you know, and just know that it will get better. And better is going to look like something different for Andrew or for you and for me. Right. But it will get better. And this is just temporary. And, you know, giving yourself grace, like it's okay that you can't do certain things. Because that was my biggest thing, is not being able to do stuff and just kind of knowing, you know, okay, I can't help you right now. I have to take care of myself. And so, you know, by giving yourself grace, you're allowing you to just take care of yourself. You know, that saying, you can't pour from an empty cup.
Right.
And knowing, okay, this is temporary. It's going to get better. It's not fun, and it's probably very awful right now. But you have to find positive in something, whether it be, hey, I didn't throw up for 5 minutes, or, right. You know, my nausea was gone for, you know, 30 minutes. Okay, that's your positive, you know, or, sorry to be graphic, but, you know, dealing with porphyria, you have diarrhea or constipation, and that doesn't feel good. But hey, I had a bowel movement, or, you know, my diarrhea has let up. And those are positives. Those are wins. And just, you have to move forward, or, you know, okay, I woke up today. I'm not in as much pain. If you have, you know, loved ones, which I'm sure everybody has a loved one, to focus on them too, and just, you know, focus on, you know, maybe something you can go and you can do, or, you know, okay, I'm feeling good enough to sit up and watch a movie. You know, you want to come sit with me and watch a movie, or, you know, that's a positive. You have to find the positive. You have to pivot. You have to learn how to shift your mindset, because that will consume you. If you don't shift your mindset to finding positive, it really, really takes over. It's a rabbit hole. You spiral, and just, it's so easy to get stuck in that dark space. And I mean, I like to watch, you know, positive talks, or I'll read scriptures or conference talks. I like to see like videos or memes, just positive things or funny things, just anything. If you can laugh, you know, maybe not everybody's spiritual like our family is. But if you can find something to laugh at, that helps. Smiling, it's contagious, and then it just starts warming you up, right? Yeah. And not that I want to focus on this, but, sometimes you just have to get yourself, away from the negative and that thinking of, this is awful, and, you know, but you do have to allow yourself to have a little bit of that.
Yeah.
And then, you know, okay, we're going to cry, we're going to be sad, woe is me for a little bit, but you got to move past that. So it's kind of that balance. It kind of goes with that grieving process. You have to give yourself that a little bit, but you know that you can't stay there. You've got to get off it, and you've got to move forward and do something different, and reaching out for help. Gosh, we have so many amazing support groups with the APF. There's so many people there. We have like over 17,000 members. Reaching out to somebody, we have the Porphyria partners. Reach out to the APF and tell them, hey, is there somebody you can link me up with? I just need a friend, or it would be nice to have somebody I can talk to. I remember I did that. That's how I met Andrew. He probably thought I was some crazy lady, but my son was in the hospital, and Cal was just in a dark place. He was in the hospital for 17 days, and he had to spend his birthday there. Oh. And, it's one thing when you can relate to your mom, you can talk to mom, but sometimes you need somebody else to talk to. And when you're a teenage boy and you feel you have nobody else, you have no hope, it really, can take over and consume you. And I just was like, I cannot see my son like this. Like, this is difficult. I got on those Facebook groups, and I don't remember, somehow I saw Andrew had made a post or something. So I sent him a message. Yeah. And I was just like, hey, I'm just looking for other young males to help my son, and just so he can look up to them, because again, finding that positive. And so I wanted my son to see that here is this person who's a young male who has porphyria, but he's living his life and he's still doing things, and he is okay. And so for Cal to be able to see that, he never reached out, but he lets me show him things or like read posts, and we watch Andrew's, funny videos that he posts. And that brings light to Cal. Like, he's just like,
that will always put a smile on your face for sure.
Yes. Yeah. The guitar one with the wig. That's That's great. But, things like that, finding a way to laugh or to smile, connecting, reaching out, and try not to be afraid. With our groups, it's a safe space. You can ask questions. Nobody's going to judge you. We all know it's hard. We've all been there. We all have good days and bad days. And just having that support and just knowing, Desiree, there was lots of times we were in the hospital and she's available. She told me, I'm available, message me, call me. Nicole too. Andrew did extend that lovely invite too, although I never did it, but, just reaching out, having somebody to reach out, because a lot of times it could be 2-3 o'clock in the morning and you could be having a really hard time and thinking there's nobody I can talk to. But when you do have somebody and you send them a message and you're just like, gosh, I hate to, bother them, but sometimes that's okay. They're happy to do that. Or on Facebook, there's people all over the world. They're at different time zones. Somebody is up.
So true.
Somebody is awake, and that's what I suggest, and that's what's been helpful to me, having that resource.
No, thank you. I think everyone's going to get a lot out of what everything you've shared today, and especially being a mom. It's even just being a mom that has porphyria or your child has porphyria. It's very difficult, but you've got both, and you just do it. I know it's not effortless. I know it's a lot of work, and it's very hard to stay positive, but you make it just look so beautiful. And I hope that everyone can take some of your advice and it'll help them. Because I know it helps me when we talk.
Yeah, and Tasha downplays it a little bit about these support groups when she is just such a key, vital role in every single one of them. And me and Nicole were talking before we had you jump on here, and I was like, what do I think of when I think of Tasha? And I was just like, I just remember those sunflower pics. I just remember you just being always a light in every single one of these groups. You're in every single place at all these times, and it's just so crazy to see. But you're such a asset to every single one of these support groups. And we, of course, appreciate having you on and appreciate you taking the time and doing everything. You're so helpful for everybody.
I'll also just put one more thing that Tasha, there are a couple patients in her area, and she's always there advocating for them as well. So like I said, I just don't know how you do it, but it's just absolutely wonderful. And I'm just so honored to know you and be your friend.
You guys are so sweet. Thank you. Well, you're my light. You're my inspiration. That's, you guys are amazing, and you're always who I'm like, oh, look at Nicole. She's amazing. She's doing all these things. And look at Andrew. He's out there and he's doing this and that. And so
we all hold each other up, right?
Effort. Yes.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much for being on, Tasha. This was great. And I'm sure we'll have you on again at some point, but it was so great to see you. I hope you have a great day.
Thank you. I hope you guys do too.
Thank you, Tasha. Thank you for taking the time out of your day to listen to our podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it with friends, family, or anyone who could benefit. And please don't forget to subscribe and leave a review on your preferred platform. It helps us spread awareness, and we would be extremely grateful. You can also follow Rarely Discussed on Instagram, YouTube, as well as TikTok. If you're someone seeking diagnosis for porphyria, visit porphyriafoundation.org to receive a free doctor packet, forms for free DNA testing, and a list of doctors in your area. Stay tuned for more episodes of Rarely Discussed.